If you are a brand new second lieutenant in the United States Army, you're probably looking forward to becoming a platoon leader. A platoon leader, in my opinion, is the best position that you can have as a junior leader. I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you become a successful platoon leader in the United States Army. Stay tuned for this week's episode of the Follow the Movement podcast. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Follow the Movement podcast. This is your host, Selldretti. Before we get into this week's episode, if you enjoy this podcast and you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button, leave a comment and a review on my podcast, wherever you listen to it at. I will have it on my website and my social media accounts. You can find those links in the description of this episode. Without further ado, let's get into it. So for this week, we're going to be talking about 5 tips for brand new second lieutenants to become successful platoon leaders. Now, I did my platoon leader time in Fort Bragg a couple years ago, and it was one of the best experiences that I have in my entire Army career, both enlisted and officer. I believe as an officer, a platoon leader is probably the best position that you'll have as an officer, because you get the best of both worlds. You get that leadership experience, and you also get to interact with your soldiers on a more personal level, because as you get higher in rank as an officer, you kind of get distant from that soldier interaction. But that's why I believe it's one of the best positions. And for platoon leaders and for second lieutenants who are about to become platoon leaders, these are 5 tips to help you become a successful platoon leader, or to help you in your platoon leader journey if you're already a platoon leader. So number 5 is to relax. Okay, I know that sounds kind of short and it sounds kind of simple, but it's very important, because as a brand new second lieutenant, you probably feel overwhelmed. You probably feel like you got to do everything by yourself. You got to do everything at once. And sometimes you might feel like the world is falling on your head. You got all these tasks, you got all these things to do with so little time to do it. But I'm here to tell you to relax. You're going to be fine. You're going to be just fine. When you become a platoon leader, or if you're already a platoon leader, brand new one, you got a platoon full of NCOs, junior NCOs, you got a platoon sergeant, and you have a plethora of soldiers with all types of knowledge, all types of Army experience. You shouldn't feel like you have to do everything alone, because the Army is supposed to be about teamwork. Even though you are the leader and you're accountable for everything in your platoon, everything that happens, you have to use your resources. It's important to use your resources. And what I mean by resources is your platoon. Use your NCOs, use your platoon sergeant, use your soldiers around you. Pick their brains, use them to your advantage. When you're planning things and when you're trying to get tasks done, pick their brains. Allow them to be more involved in the planning and in the execution and everything. You don't have to do everything yourself. You shouldn't be doing everything yourself. You should be utilizing your platoon to help you get things done. And then with that being said, you're gonna make mistakes. Okay, you're gonna make mistakes. You have to go into this position knowing that you're gonna make mistakes. Okay, you might plan something that don't go to as planned as you want it to go. You're gonna brief the battalion, your battalion commander. You're gonna brief your company commander on a conduct that you created, and the brief is not gonna go as well. You're probably gonna stutter. You're probably gonna be filled with so much anxiety, and you're gonna be nervous to the point where you're gonna be stuttering. You might leave out some information. The brief not gonna go as you want it to go. You might not brief good the first couple times. You might have a bad PT session. Things are gonna happen. And sometimes it's out of your control. It's something that you can't prevent. And I'm here to tell you it's okay. Just relax. You're going to be okay. You're going to make mistakes, okay? You have to go into this thing knowing that things are going to happen. And I understand that as a platoon leader, you're going to be the sole person in charge of everything. You're going to be accountable for everything that happens. But just know that use those mistakes as a tool to grow and to develop. They have these things in the Army called AARs, after action reviews. So at the end of any event or any task or any mission that you do an after action review. Get your sustains, get your improvements, the things that you need to improve on, and go from there. Because one is going to help you as a platoon leader, is going to help you plan better events and plan better missions in the future. And then 2, it's going to help your platoon grow as far as knowing what to do, what not to do, what to keep and what to get rid of, and things like that. It's more of like a developmental tool for you as a platoon leader to help you prevent mistakes that you made previously in the future. Okay, so if you make a mistake, it is okay. It's not the end of the world. Relax, learn from your mistake. Do not make the same mistake twice, and use it as a developmental tool. Learn from it and move on from it, and you're going to be just fine. The best position to make mistakes as an officer is at the platoon leader position, because you're young, you're a junior officer, you are trying to develop yourself as a leader, you're trying to find your way. Use your resources, and if you make a mistake, learn from it and move on. You're going to be just fine. Okay, number 4 is be coachable. Okay, be coachable. I think this is one of the most important ones out of this list, because I've heard so many stories about seg lieutenants fresh out of college. They go into these platoons and they act like they know everything, and they try to take over platoon and try to have a hierarchy over their soldiers and over their NCOs. I'm here to tell you that is not something that you want to do, because 9 times out of 10, not even 9 times out of 10, 20 times out of 10, your soldiers, your NCOs are not going to be receptive to that mindset. And for the most part, they're going to know that you don't know everything. I would advise you to not go into a new platoon, knowing that you know everything when you really don't. If you don't know something, ask questions. Like I said before, use your resources. Soak in the knowledge from your platoon sergeants and your junior NCOs and your soldiers. Soak in all that knowledge. One of the things that I did as a signal officer when I became a signal platoon leader is that I went around and I asked questions to all my soldiers. You know, I went and asked some of my soldiers, you know, how do you operate this? How do you operate that? What is this? What is that? For one, that helped me out because I got the knowledge of that piece of equipment for my own personal knowledge and whatnot. And then 2, it shows that you care about what the soldiers are doing and you care about their development. And then 3, you get to see if they know what they're talking about. You know, you kind of get a gauge of what they do or do not know. So if they don't know something or they struggling with something, you can get the tools, so you can get the training that they need to help them develop. And then 4, that's a way for you to develop a relationship with them. You know, that's a way to break the ice and get to know them on a personal level. It kind of shows that you care about them on a professional level and on a personal level. Don't go in the platoon thinking that you know everything, because 9 times out of 10, you don't know everything. Most of the things that you're going to be doing, you've never done before. And don't act like you do, because it's going to show. It's going to show. And your soldiers and your NCOs are going to know that you don't know. And it's not going to play out for you well. It's not going to play out well. So go in there, be coachable, bring yourself down to their level, and understand that you have resources around you. If you don't know something, ask questions and own up and acknowledge the fact that you don't know it, and get that information. It's only going to help you become a better platoon leader at the end of the day. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 3 is listen to your NCOs. Okay, that's a very broad statement, because throughout my experience in the Army, both enlisted and an officer, I've learned that there's good NCOs and there's bad NCOs, just like there's good officers and there's bad officers. So you have to kind of discern the good and the bad ones. But in terms of going into a new platoon as a brand new seg lieutenant, fresh out of college, going into a platoon, you need to really grasp the things that your NCOs tell you, that they suggest to you, that they help you out on. You really need to allow your NCOs to, you know, have leeway and have input in your planning and your execution and stuff like that. You need to use them. Okay, like I said before, pick their brains, let them have suggestions, let them have say so in some of the things that you say, because at the end of the day, it's your decision to make. Okay, you can ask one of your NCOs a question, or they can suggest something to you. You don't have to do it. You know, you don't have to do it, but it would, as the Army would say, behoove you. Okay, it would behoove you, or it would be smart of you to take what your NCOs tell you and take it into high consideration and actually do what they suggest to you to do, because 9 times out of 10, the things that you're trying to do as a platoon leader, they have done it multiple times, millions of times in the past. They know the ins and outs, they know what good, they know the bad, they know the ugly, they know all of that already. And as a team, they want to succeed. They want to succeed at NCOs just as you want to succeed as a platoon leader and as a team. So your success is their success and vice versa. So when you're planning and when you're doing the execution phase of missions and PT and stuff like that, please pick their brains and use your NCOs. Allow them to have say so and allow them to feel a part of the team and allow them to implement their knowledge on things. And that's only going to help you at the end of the day. There's a saying that I always tell myself when I go through my Army career, and is my soldiers write my OERs. And what I mean by that is your OERs, or your officer evaluation reports is what they call them, is something you get annually, and it's kind of an evaluation of how you did as a platoon leader. And I believe that you won't have a good OER unless you have good soldiers, and you have soldiers that can execute the plans that you set out for them, and you have good soldiers that are there to help you get better as a person and as a soldier and as a leader. Because you can plan all you want, but the NCOs, the soldiers, are the ones that execute your plans to however you want it to be. So they are the ones that actually do the things that you have set out for them to do. So it's very important to have a good relationship with your NCOs and your soldiers and empower them to implement information or have some say so into planning, and offer suggestions and take those suggestions seriously, because that's only going to help you and the platoon at the end of the day. So that's number 3. So number 2 is, and I know this is probably going to sound redundant because this is very important. So number 2 is, do not lose your equipment. Okay, be accountable of your equipment, all of your equipment. Okay, one of the first things you're going to do when you become a platoon leader is sign for equipment for your platoon, whatever that is. And one of the first things you're probably going to do before you even become the platoon leader is do a left seat, right seat with the previous platoon leader. So he or she is going to walk you down what's called a hand receipt. You're going to get a hand receipt, and it's going to have all the equipment that you're going to sign for. Before you sign for anything, and it's not just for equipment, for anything that you get in the Army, make sure you get eyes, hands, ears, whatever it is. Make sure you get eyes and hands on it. Make sure you see it. Make sure you are accountable of it. Okay, make sure you have it. Make sure you see it before you sign for anything. Make sure you go through the whole hand receipt that you get. Make sure you have everything, the main item and the components of the item, because if you don't, then you need to annotate that. Okay, you need to annotate everything that you do have and don't have before you sign it, and go through everything. If you got to go through everything twice, then do so. But do not sign for something that you do not have or have not seen or do not have in your hand physically at that point of switching over. Because at the end of the day, when you sign for something and it's lost, and you do like command inventories or whatever, and it comes up missing, you are going to be accountable for that item. Even though that you knew it wasn't missing, but you signed for the hand receipt, that's all they got is a hand receipt. So you need to make sure that you are very cognizant of signing for your hand receipt when you become a platoon leader. And then once you sign that that hand receipt as a platoon leader, a smart thing to do is to sub hand receipt some of the items down to your NCOs or your soldiers. So for example, I'm a signal officer, and as a signal platoon leader, I was part of a platoon that had signal equipment. So for example, you got a JNN and you have an STT, right? I had soldiers in my platoon who specialized on that specific equipment. So what I did was, or the smart thing to do for me would have been to sign over that STT, that specific equipment, down to whoever operates that specific equipment. So for one, it gives the soldiers some type of accountability, some type of empowerment, knowing that they are responsible for that piece of equipment. And two, it kind of frees up your hand receipt. It kind of, gives you some peace of mind knowing that you're not signed for everything. You don't have to necessarily be accountable for everything all the time, because that soldier, you signed that hand receipt down to them, even though at the end of the day, you are still responsible for that equipment. Don't get me wrong, you're still responsible for it because you're the platoon leader, but sub hand receipting it down to whoever operates it, it kind of works on both sides. So that's kind of a tidbit. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever. You can keep everything if you want. That's kind of what I did because we didn't have a lot of equipment. But if you're in a platoon that has a whole lot of equipment, it'd be smart to sub hand receipt some of that stuff down to your NCOs, the ones that actually operate it on a daily basis, to kind of free up your hand receipt, allow them to be accountable for something, and empower them to, you know, be accountable for those things. You don't have to do it, but that's just a little tidbit. And then number 1, this is the most important one for me personally, and I think that this is going to be the most impactful as a leader and as a platoon leader, and that's take care of your soldiers. Okay, take care of your soldiers, and I mean that in the most broad way, in the most specific way. Okay, your soldiers are going to be the most important asset that you have, and the most important thing to you as a platoon leader, because the Army doesn't keep rolling without soldiers. Okay, your soldiers are going to be the ones who execute the plans that you have. They're going to be the ones who make you look good, and they're going to be the ones who are out there doing the work on the front lines and doing all that work for you. It's important that you take care of your soldiers, that you're there for them 24/7, that you make sure you establish an environment that you show your soldiers that you care about them, and that you care about them not only on a professional level but on a personal level as well. Because you're probably going to be 22, 23 years old, and your soldiers are probably going to be in their late 20s, 30s with families, kids, and they're going to be looking up to you for leadership. And like I said, this is a team sport. Like I said, you don't have to do everything yourself, and you're not going to know sometimes how to help that soldier right away. But the fact that you show them that you care and that you're willing to go above and beyond for them, they'll run through a brick wall for you. That's why it's so important that you take care of your soldiers. I don't care what nobody say. That's the most important thing. Your soldiers are going to be there for you, sun up, sun down, always. You might hear this while you're in the Army. It's a saying that it goes, mission first, soldier always. And how I interpret that is, you can't complete a mission without your soldiers. Your soldiers are always going to need to be taken care of. That's the number one thing. That's the most important thing. If you don't hear anything else from these tips, that's the number one thing I hope you take with you, is to take care of your soldiers. Be there for them. Show them that you care about them. Hear them out, and that you're there for them and you got their back always. And I promise you, your time as a platoon leader is going to be amazing, because you're going to have soldiers behind you. You're going to have great men and women behind you that's going to do whatever it is that you need them to do, and you're going to do whatever it is that you need to do for them. And it's going to be one big family, and it's going to be an amazing experience. So whatever you do, take care of your soldiers at the end of the day. So that's all I got. Those are my 5 tips. I hope those 5 tips help you as a brand new second lieutenant become a successful platoon leader. You know, some of these things were just little tidbits that I threw in there from my experience and some of the things I've heard from other people who were platoon leaders in the past. So this is the perfect time for you to develop your leadership skills and to really grasp what it is to be a leader in the Army and get that firsthand experience. So this is like the foundation. This is where you set the foundation as a platoon leader in the United States Army. This is where you set the foundation. So make sure you make the best of it and do the best you can to be all you can be, and to take care of your soldiers and to show them that you care, and to take this information, take the things that you learned as a platoon leader, and they'll take you far into your Army career. That's all I got. I appreciate everybody who's been listening to my videos, subscribing to my channel, and listening to my podcast. I really appreciate it a lot. It means a lot. I will catch y'all in the next episode. Be all you can be. Stay true to who you are. And remember to follow the movement. Peace.